Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to finish up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. If you'd like to submit your own special selection, you can find a link to do so in the description below. Today's special selection comes at us from Ryan. It says, I'm requesting the song Think Less by UK noisy synth punk band Thank. These guys are super underappreciated for how well they manage to make such harsh, ugly noises so catchy. Noisy synth punk, it just seems like a cobbling together of ideas, so I'm interested to see what that actually sounds like when we get into this. So we have Thank with the song Think Less. See what they're bringing to the table. every time I think I've reached past the point of being shocked by what a band could do, you guys throw something new at me. And it really causes me to reevaluate my relationship to music and how I understand it to be. There is a lot of aspects in here which are familiar to me, and there's just as many that are not. This is a very interesting combination of ideas. Ryan was not wrong when he said that it's noisy but catchy, but I don't think, at least for me, it's catchy in the ways that I traditionally think about catchy music. And that is usually that the hook is catchy, and the hook, not necessarily the music, but more importantly, the lyrics, the vocals. That's the part that tends to stick with people in mainstream music. I would not say any particular aspect of the lyrics stood out to me as catchy. In fact, most of it seemed to be the opposite of that. There was a lot of disjointed elements in the phrasing, disjointed elements in what syllables got accents and what didn't. It did not seem to fit within a typical style of either spoken word or sung word. It played around with it like a progressive band writing a melody line. But it did so in the means of rhythmic ideas. There wasn't much of a melodic flow to a lot of the vocal lines either. No, it was actually the bass line that I felt was most catchiest. It was what solidified the song of having something that wasn't noise. It solidified a more melodic element to this track. And that's just a very strange way to go about writing a song. It's a very strange way to categorize a song as catchy. Also, there are very, very few songs that I would say that the bass line is the most memorable. If you ask somebody to hum an aspect of it, it would be one of the first things they thought of. And this might be one of those songs in that very short list. Mostly because there isn't much else that follows anything that I would classify as catchy or even melodic. Almost everything else here is designed to be noisy. But I can't deny that there is a catchy element to it. There is an element of hook going on, and I do want to listen to it again, but I don't know why. And maybe for people who enjoy noisier music, it's already what is that word? It's already clear to them why they would want to listen to it again. There's a specific element of this music that catches their attention that they enjoy. But for me, I don't typically enjoy music like this, especially not casually. But there's an element of me that says, hey, we need to listen to that again. That was pretty good. And my analytical brain goes, pretty good. Did we listen to the same thing? Because most of my brain wants to say that this is an interesting track. And I'll dive into some stuff in a moment that I thought was that's worth talking about. It's worth bringing up for the song. But there's this other part of my body that says this was good. We should listen to it again. And it's a small part, but there's something in here that I found enjoyable, but I don't know what it was. I'm hoping that when I come out the other side of this analysis, I will understand what part of this I'm finding addictive in a sense, what part of this I want more of. Maybe so I can find it in another song that might work better for me that features this element. But having just listened to it and not really dove into it too much, just kind of have some thoughts while I listen to it, I don't know anything in here that I would particularly enjoy other than the bass line. I really dig that bass line. I think it was very cool. Simple, repetitive, but catchy, dancey, groovy. So I don't even know where to begin. Let's start with, man, the vocals, I suppose. Because, I mean, that's how the song starts. I don't even really know how to. Man. So the vocals are half spoken, half screamed, with odd rhythmic elements to them. It seems to purposefully go against any idea of traditional vocal styles. It is completely going against the idea of melodic vocals that we hear in popular music, like rock or pop or uh, country. There is no melodic flow to the vocals. The note choices seemed not to be rooted in any sort of musical element, but more just about speech and inflection. I don't necessarily choose the words or choose the pitches of the words I speak right now, but there is a sort of melodic element, a melodic flow to the words or to what I'm saying. And that's just because of the natural way that my body chooses to pitch different elements of a sentence. And I think that's the only thing that changes the pitch in his vocal aspect as well. So you would think naturally there would be a rhythmic aspect to it, no different than growls or rapping or even spoken poetry. And it seems to push against those ideas as well. There is rhythmic attention being paid, but it's not to create something that is pleasant to listen to. There is no element of flow. There is no element of meter if we're looking at this poetically. Even rhyming scheme and accentuation of, syllabic accentuation seems to be all over the place. It doesn't seem to follow anything. Some sentences tend to go on for what I would feel is probably multiple stanzas, but kind of feel like they should be one line when looking at the whole. For instance, if we're looking at, say that some of these lines are 4-line stanzas. One line might consist of 20 syllables, but still be only one line in a stanza, whereas lines 2, 3, and 4 of the stanza have a more traditional 8 to 10 syllables in them. So if you look at it numerically, you do have a 4-line stanza, but if you look at it syllabically, there we have a bunch of weight on that first line that is not showcased elsewhere. It creates this imbalance in it. And at least that's how it feels. I haven't looked at the lyrics yet, but that's how some of these aspects feel, especially the verses, right? The chorus, or what I perceive to be the chorus anyways, that's the think less, think once, not twice section. I think that's what he said. That seems to have more of a pattern to it rhythmically. But the verses seem to be all over the place. And like I said, that mixed with the odd syllabic accentuation, there doesn't seem to be a pattern to what beats get accents, whether it's looking at it musically and looking at where the accents are there, or looking at it speech-wise and looking at what syllables get accents and seeing if that would be natural to speak it that way. It seems to eschew both of those ideas to instead take the stance of randomness, chaos, just to accent whatever feels right in the moment. It's an interesting way to go about doing it that, like I said, kind of goes against every element of vocal writing, whether it is melodic or rhythmic. But it goes along with everything else in the song, right? I mean, when we look at the guitars, they're just kind of noisy, making sounds. Even the percussive element is noisy. There is a bit of a rhythm going on, but the sounds being used to create that rhythm are not abnormal, but definitely produced in a way that sounds abrasive. I almost want to say annoying at times, especially hearing it over and over and over again. And we look at the guitar solo, and I am fairly confident he is just hitting whatever he hits. That's not to say that he doesn't have the skill to be purposefully playing all of these notes while he's shredding. For all I know, he is, and he's purposefully leaning into more of a chromatic element to it. But to me, at least, it looked like just kind of flailing around, and whatever notes come out is what notes come out. And it's more about achieving that chaotic random element than playing something that seems chaotic but isn't. There seems to be this true element of randomness, of allowing the moment to dictate what is happening going on in the song. Um, so maybe all that kind of works with the idea of thinking less. You know, the only lines I really picked up were think less, think once, not twice. I think that's what it is. Very, very confusing. um, but I mean, you can kind of apply that to the song. It seems to be a very gut reaction kind of thing. We're not second guessing ourselves. We're not wondering if something actually works. This is what we feel should be played right here, so that's what we're going to do. You know, should I double check if this accent in my vocal rhythm works against the song? No, it's what felt right in the moment, and I'm sticking with that. Should I, create a specifically crafted guitar solo that sounds chaotic? No, I'm just going to play what feels right in the moment, and since I'm aiming for chaos, it doesn't matter because there's no wrong notes. Do it in the moment, follow your gut, don't second guess yourself. Don't think twice is a literal line in the chorus. Um, so it's really interesting that those two lead elements line up with that little notion there. Now it doesn't line up with the bass at all. The bass, like I said, has a melodic element to it. It is my favorite part of the song because it allows me to have a moment or a little area to myself where I can feel not outside my element. It says, "Hey, you like melody, you like structure, check out the bass." It's a little home for me inside of the chaos, but it also provides context to everything, and context is very important. What is chaos if you don't understand order? And that's what the bass does. It provides the order, it provides rhythmic order, it provides melodic order, it provides the single chord that the whole song is performed within. I don't think there's any movement. Each bar is the same thing for the bass. Each bar is the same noise with the other instruments. There may be some chromaticism to the other instruments, but the bass lays down this single chord for the song to exist over. It is, for all intents and purposes, the root of the song. It is what everything else contrasts against. It is also singular in nature, which I think is interesting, building an entire song on a single chord, not a chord progression, a single chord. I'm not 100% sure on that. There might be a different chord in the verse and the chorus. Maybe there's a different one that comes up in the bridge. But from what I remember, that bass line existed pretty much everywhere, and I don't remember it changing keys or changing modes. It seemed rather static. That's another interesting idea. It is static amidst the whirlwind of everything else. I can't seem to find any patterns anywhere except the bass. That's another way that it contrasts the rest of the band. I'm going to take a moment here and dive into the lyrics and see if I can't pair any of this. I wish I had more to say. This is going to be a short video, but I'm definitely out of my element here. I'm kind of stretching what I typically look for and talk about to fit this, which is just breaking every mold that I typically assess music by, which is fascinating just in that primary element right there. If I have nothing else to say, it's breaking molds and pushing the envelope in a way that is memorable. I think catchy might not be the best word now that I think about it. It kind of embodies the same idea, but it is memorable, right? I can still hum that bass line along, and the randomness of the verses is going to be stuck in my head. I may not remember the exact lines, but it is something that I'm going to remember. So let me dive into some lyrics and see what's going on. And what? So there's a through line here with suffering for art or suffering in general, I suppose, and then converting that to art. It's very dominant in the opening. It says, "I'm feeling worthless, tied to a chair. I'm told that great works have art. Oh, that great works of art have come from my suffering. That it's for the greater good and the future of music." So we have this element. In the second verse, it says, "Do I really deserve this? Is this what I deserve?" And then in the refrain, it says, "All she wants is a compromise. Oh, I wish I could." And it trails off. It leads into the chorus. So we have this unified idea of, oh, I wish I could, think less, think once, not twice. But it also sort of alludes to the idea that he wishes he could compromise. He can't, and this is causing the suffering as well. There's this element of wanting something and not being able to get it without pain, without compromise, without suffering. That if they want to be great musicians, if they want to contribute to great art, they must suffer. If they want a relationship that works, they must not necessarily suffer, but do something they don't want to. Um, and the whole thing starts off with him saying, "I'm feeling worthless." Like, it's not a great way to start the song. Um, but there's a lot of sections in here that seem to veer hard left from these ideas out of nowhere. He says, he says that great works of art come from suffering. And then, can't we just mental capital some other day? I'm tired and dinner's getting cold. Left field, okay, whatever. Think less, think once, not twice. I'm having a tough time comparing this to these ideas of suffering, of having to compromise oneself to achieve one's goals. Unless this is part of that. Instead of doing what you think you should, think twice about what you're doing, just doing what you're told, to suffer, to compromise, to obey what the record labels are asking rather than making your art. That kind of idea. But then even that changes into these thoughts. They come at night. I'm done out like a light. And then repeats the idea, think less, think once, not twice. What thoughts come at night? We're just talking. I mean, the thoughts of thinking twice, the thoughts of not thinking twice, of just letting your life be dictated because they come at night when you're tired and you feel exhausted and you're exhausted of fighting the system and fighting for what you want, and maybe it's easier to just roll over and do what's expected of you. I mean, that's what is this alluding to? I think it could be read in quite a few different ways. Going to the second verse, "Do I really deserve this? Is this what I deserve?" That lines up with the suffering. And then it says, "We've all had such a wonderful time and we're going to make sure you know it because that's what good friends do." What? Do you deserve having a wonderful time with your friends? Like, again, I feel like these two ideas are very separated, but they're smashed together time wise in the song to imply that they go together, even though I don't think they do. There's also, if I remember right, a bit of sarcasm dripping from this section, and maybe it's a jab at social media. Bands taking pictures of doing stuff together to seem relatable so that they can sell more stuff. And maybe that's the suffering of having to go through the circus act of performance. All you want to do is make great art, but you also have to do this other element. You have to do the social media. You have to grow your brand. Unless you want to join a record label, and then you're beholden to a different person with different requirements to make your art. I don't know. And maybe all of this is told through the lens of a relationship as a metaphor for the relationship between either the band and their fans or the band and their record label, or maybe both simultaneously, that they want compromise. If you want to make your great music and live off of it, speaking about dismantling capital, you have to play the game. You have to compromise. You have to do things that are not the art. I don't know. I think I'm reading a bit into this one, but if I don't read into it, I feel like it loses a lot of its punch, a lot of its impact. I think my reading of it is very interesting. I don't know if it's their intention. But I also like how it comes together into the chaos. Because we have a whirlwind of ideas in here. They're all over the place, right? So that's already adding to the chaotic element of the song, but it could also be internal chaos. Having to fight with yourself between doing what you want and doing what you need to do what you want. And should you just tell everybody to forget it? I'm going to make my music, and if it takes off, it takes off. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't want to play the games. I don't want to make the compromise, which is exactly what's said in the refrain. But there's going to be that internal argument with oneself, right? Do I do this? Right? If I don't play the games of the record label, and if I don't try to spread my brand through social media, then I'm not making money off of my art. And is that a bad thing? Is it okay for it to continue to be a hobby? Or are times so tight that I can't have a hobby? Do I have to monetize everything I do? And at that point, it makes more sense to play the game so that you can turn your hobby into something that you can live off of, so that you don't have to have a full-time job while also trying to make your art, and not trying to be so dead at night that you think, hey, maybe I should just roll over and do whatever because it would make my life easier. Maybe I should stop thinking twice, which is the exhaustion talking of trying to juggle everything in life just to make yourself happy while putting food on the table. I do think I'm putting a lot of myself in this reading, but it's what I'm getting out of it, and I think it does tie into the song. I don't again maybe the song is speaking to me. Maybe that's the part that feels addictive. I do feel seen here. I don't know. Those are my thoughts on think less. Maybe I did think too much. Maybe I did think about some of these things twice. Who knows? That's where you guys come in, though. Hit me up in the comments. What did you think of this song? Did you enjoy it? Do you find anything about this addictive or catchy or memorable despite the chaotic element? Did you find the chaos and the noise the memorable aspect? This could be right up your alley because you love noisy music. Let me know in the comments what your perspective is on all of this. Also, if you have any insight into the lyrical intentions of the band, I'm interested in that, especially not necessarily what they mean in isolation, but how they relate to the song. When you're done commenting, you need to head up to the description box, and in there's a link for Linktree. It takes you to this menu right here. There's a bunch of links in here for everything related to the channel. You can join the Patreon and vote on future themes and songs. You can pick up some merch. You can submit your own special selection. You can follow me on Twitter, join the Discord community. Tons of stuff in there. Go ahead and check it out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. We'll continue on with this week's theme of otherworldly music, and we'll look at another special selection. Until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.